continuing coverage now after 3 days of arguments. The judge in the Bryan Kohberger case must now decide whether or not to allow key DNA evidence to be presented at his murder trial, expected to be later this year.
Yeah, Aspen Chumper is live at the Ada County Courthouse and joins us from there. Aspen, what was covered today?
Brenda and Joe, this trial started back on Monday. We continued to hear arguments in this trial yesterday, and then it was wrapped up today. Bryan Kohberger's attorneys are arguing that specific DNA evidence should not be used against him in court. Now, the last 2 days of the hearing were focused on the investigative genetic genealogy and other DNA collected during the investigation into the killing of 4 University of Idaho students back in 2022. The defense argued police should have secured a search warrant before detectives analyzed DNA collected from the crime scene and before they gathered and tested items out of Kohberger's trash at his Pennsylvania home. Today, the defense called 2 Moscow police officers into that investigation to testify, and they were asked to explain when and how warrants were obtained and served, and whether or not certain items like Kohberger's cell phone and his car had a warrant.
The Fourth Amendment requires particularity sufficient to prevent the exercise of discretion by an executing officer. The particularity requirement's objective is that necessary searches should be as limited as possible. A search warrant must be particular enough so that, as to what is taken, nothing is left to the discretion of the officer executing the warrant.
Kohberger's attorneys argue the search warrants were too broad, violating the defendant's right to privacy. The state does not believe the collection of evidence at the crime scene or in the weeks that followed violated any of Kohberger's rights.
All of these warrants were not general warrants. They were all sufficiently particular. They were specific to the type, each one of them listed that they were specific to the type of crime, the location, and all but one of them had temporal limitations.
Now, the judge says he will be taking arguments from this week into consideration to make his decision. Coming up on the news at 6, we're going to hear from one of the murdered victims' families, Kaylee Gonzalez. Her family was here in town. We're going to get their take on what was said in trial this week. I know they are hopeful, and we'll hear a little bit more from them tonight.
We'll continue to follow this. Yeah, I mean, it's a major story, and depending on what happens with that DNA evidence, the trial later this year could look very different. Aspen, we'll talk to you at 6. Thanks so much.